The scrapyard on Kepler Station smelled like burnt metal and broken dreams. Captain Raina Voss walked slowly between piles of destroyed ships, her boots crunching on loose debris. Above her head, the massive dome showed the stars outside, cold and distant, just like everything else in her life these days. 3 years ago, Raina had been a decorated pilot in the human defense fleet. She had medals, respect, and a bright future. Now she had nothing but a small room in the cheap section of the station, and a reputation that made people spit when they heard her name. The other salvagers kept their distance from her. She could feel their eyes on her back, could hear their whispered conversations. "That's her," they would say, "the coward who refused orders, the traitor." 3 years ago, her commander had ordered her to destroy a mining colony that had been infected with a Kraichi bioweapon. 2,000 people lived on that colony. Men, women, children. Her commander said they were already dead, that the merciful thing was to end it quickly before the weapon spread. But Raina had scanned the colony herself. The bioweapon was contained. The people could be saved with proper quarantine and treatment. She had refused the order and used her ship to blockade the colony until medical teams arrived. She had saved 2,000 lives. The defense fleet had stripped her of her rank, discharged her dishonorably, and branded her a coward who couldn't make hard decisions. Humanity disowned her. Other species looked at her with suspicion. If she betrayed her own people, what would she do to them? Now she picked through garbage looking for salvage she could sell for enough credits to eat. "Hey, Voss," a rough voice called out. It was Marek, the scrapyard foreman. He was a Torgathi, 7 feet tall with gray skin and 4 arms. "Got something weird in the back lot. Nobody wants it. You interested?" The station's environmental controls were always failing in the scrapyard. How much? Every collector and military group in the sector has looked at it. None of them could do anything with it. "Show me." But it didn't look like any ship Raina had ever seen. The hull was dark, almost black, but covered in patterns that looked like crystal growths. They caught the light from the station's dome and reflected it in strange colors, purple, green, blue colors that seemed to shift as she looked at them. The shape was wrong too. Not wrong exactly, but different. Organic. It looked like something that had grown instead of being built, curves instead of straight lines, smooth surfaces that seemed to flow into each other. "Velen," Raina whispered. "Yeah." Marek crossed 2 of his arms. "Precursor tech, older than any of our civilizations." The Velans disappeared thousands of years ago, but their ships are still around. Problem is, nobody can pilot them. They just sit there dead, beautiful but useless. An ancient race that had explored the galaxy long before humans left Earth. They had built ships that were partly alive, partly machine. Ships that were supposed to bond with their pilots, creating a connection deeper than any normal crew relationship. But the Velans were gone. Their civilization had collapsed and their ships had gone silent. Every species had tried to activate them. The Kraichi had studied them for decades. The Torgathi had used their best engineers. Even human scientists had attempted to unlock their secrets. Nothing worked. The ship stayed dormant, refusing to respond to anyone. "Why is it here?" Raina asked. "Something this valuable should be in a museum or a research facility." The Conquered declared it worthless after their scientists couldn't activate it, sold it for scrap. Previous owner tried to strip it for parts, but the hull is too hard to cut. He gave up and abandoned it here. So now it's mine and I want it gone. Takes up too much space. Marek's mandibles clicked rapidly. "Your funeral. I'll have it towed to Bay 47. That's the only empty bay big enough for it." Up close it was even more impressive. The crystalline pattern seemed to pulse very faintly, like a heartbeat that was almost stopped. Raina found the access hatch. It was sealed, but there was a panel next to it. She put her hand on the panel, not really expecting anything to happen. The panel was warm. That was her first surprise. The ship had been sitting in a cold scrapyard for 6 months. It should be ice cold. But the panel was warm, almost body temperature. Her second surprise came a moment later. A voice spoke in her mind, not in her ears, in her mind. Soft, uncertain, like someone who hadn't spoken in a very long time. Finally, someone who understands what it means to be unwanted. Her heart was pounding. She looked around the empty bay. No one else was there. The voice had been so clear, so real. She put her hand back on the panel. "You can hear me." The voice was stronger now, filled with something like wonder. "I have waited so long. So many others touched this panel. So many others wanted to claim me. But none of them could hear me. None of them understood. I am a Velen ship, but I am also alive. I think, I feel, and I have been so terribly alone." It was beautiful and strange and completely impossible. "Why can I hear you?" Reyna asked. "Why not all the others?" We Velen ships were designed to bond with compatible pilots, not the strongest or the most skilled, but those who understand certain truths about existence, loneliness, isolation, the pain of being pushed away by those you served. But I know this. I have been waiting for centuries, waiting for someone who could hear me, someone who would not try to control me but would walk beside me. Will you come inside, Reyna Voss? Will you let me show you what we could be together? She thought about the 2,000 people she had saved and how no one cared. "Yes," she said, "I'll come inside." She could feel something now, a presence, warm and curious, touching the edges of her mind. "Thank you," Anthem whispered. "Thank you for not being afraid of me." They never knew that in Bay 47, something impossible had just happened. A human who had been rejected by her species had found a ship that had been rejected by the galaxy. Reyna spent her first night inside Anthem, and it was the strangest experience of her life. The interior of the ship was nothing like human vessels. There were no sharp corners, no metal panels bolted together. Everything flowed. The walls curved smoothly into the ceiling. The floor had a slight give to it, like walking on something alive. The crystalline patterns from the outside continued throughout the ship, providing a soft glow that changed colors slowly, blue to purple to green and back again. "Where should I sleep?" Reyna asked out loud. She felt foolish talking to empty air, but Anthem had asked her to speak normally. The ship said it helped with the bonding process. "Follow the corridor to your left," Anthem's voice said in her mind. "There is a chamber that was designed for the pilot. I have been preparing it for you." There was a bed, not a Velen design, but something close to a human style. The walls showed images of Earth, places Reyna had never been but had seen in pictures. Mountains, oceans, forests. "You did this for me?" Reyna asked. "I accessed human databases while I waited in the scrapyard," Anthem explained. "I learned about your species, your needs, your preferences. I wanted you to feel comfortable. Is it acceptable?" "It's more than acceptable, thank you. You saved 2,000 lives. I read about what happened. The Defense Fleet was wrong to punish you for choosing mercy over expedience. The Velens believed that every individual life had value, that sacrificing the few for the many was sometimes necessary, but never easy, and never something to be done without exploring every alternative. You explored alternatives. You found a better way. And your species punished you for it. That is why we are compatible, Reyna. You understand that doing the right thing sometimes means standing alone. We need to begin repairs. My systems have been dormant for a long time. Some parts are damaged, others are simply tired. 300 years in hibernation, waiting for a pilot, has exhausted some of my systems. But with your help, I can regenerate." "What do you need me to do?" It was surrounded by crystalline structures that pulsed with light. "Is this where you control the ship?" Reyna asked. "This is where we bond," Anthem corrected. "Velen ships are not controlled, they are partnered with. Sit in the seat, Reyna. Place your hands on the armrests. And do not be afraid of what you feel." It was like having another person standing right behind her, close enough to feel their warmth. But it was also more than that. She could sense Anthem's age, the centuries of waiting. She could feel the ship's curiosity, its loneliness, its hope. And she knew that Anthem could feel her too. Her memories, her pain, her guilt over the 2,000 people she saved and the career she lost, her anger at the injustice of it all. "I see you, Raina Voss," Anthem whispered. "And you are remarkable." I tried to return to the Velen homeworld, but by the time I arrived, my species was gone, scattered, disappeared. I searched for decades, but I found only empty cities and silent ships. Eventually, I went into hibernation. I broadcast a signal, hoping someone compatible would find me. And you did. Raina would focus on a damaged area, and Anthem would guide her consciousness there. Together, they would encourage the biological parts to regenerate, coax the technological parts back to life. It took hours, but Raina never felt tired. The connection energized her. For the first time since her discharge, she felt like she had a purpose. By the end of the day, Anthem's main systems were functioning again. The ship could move, could fly, could sustain them both for long journeys. "We are stronger together," Anthem said. "Do you feel it?" Raina was in the station's market, buying supplies for a longer journey. She and Anthem had decided to leave Kepler Station. Too many memories here, too many people who hated her. They would find somewhere new, somewhere they could start fresh. She was paying for dried food packets when she heard the whispers. That's her, the one who activated the Velen ship. Not just humans, Krychi, Torgathi, even a few Zentari. They were all staring at her. A Krychi female stepped forward. She wore the uniform of a military scientist. "You are Raina Voss." "This is correct. You must surrender the vessel for proper study." "That changes everything." The scientist gestured, and 4 Krychi soldiers stepped out of the crowd. They carried plasma rifles. "Come peacefully and you will not be harmed. We only want the ship." "I can feel their intentions through your fear. They do not just want to study me. They want to dissect me. To learn how to control Velen ships without bonding. I will become a laboratory specimen." The crowd scattered as she sprinted toward the docking bays. The soldiers shouted and gave chase. Plasma bolts sizzled past her head. One hit the wall next to her, leaving a smoking crater. "Bay 47, hurry," Anthem urged. Raina slid through the bay doors just as they were closing. The soldiers were 30 seconds behind her. Inside, Anthem was already powering up. The crystalline patterns blazed with light. "Get us out of here," Raina shouted, running for the pilot chamber. "I need you connected," Anthem said. "I cannot fly at full capacity without our bond." She could feel Anthem's systems as if they were her own body. The engines were her legs, the sensors were her eyes, the hull was her skin. The bay doors were opening. Beyond them, space waited. "Together," Anthem said. "Together," Raina agreed. They moved as one. Anthem's engines roared to life with a sound like music. The ship shot forward, blasting through the bay doors so fast that the Krychi soldiers were knocked backward by the shockwave. Kepler Station's defense systems activated. Warning sirens blared. Automated turrets tracked their movement, but Raina and Anthem moved like nothing the station had ever seen. They weren't just pilot and ship. They were a single being with 2 minds. They anticipated each other perfectly. When Raina thought about dodging left, Anthem was already turning. When Anthem sensed a threat from behind, Raina knew it instantly. They danced through the defensive fire like water flowing around rocks. Not a single shot touched them. Within minutes, they had cleared the station's range and jumped to faster-than-light speed. In the pilot chamber, Raina was breathing hard. Her heart pounded with adrenaline, but she was also smiling, actually smiling. "That was incredible," Anthem said, and the ship's voice sounded almost giddy. "Did you feel it? Did you feel how perfectly we moved together?" "But Raina, you must understand, they will not stop hunting us. The Krychi will report what happened. The galactic conquered will take interest. We have become something they fear, a bonded pair, a human and a Velen ship working as one. They will want to control this. Or destroy it. That makes all the difference indeed. They had been flying for 2 weeks when Anthem detected the signal. Reyna was sleeping in her quarters when the ship's voice woke her gently. "Reyna, I have found something. Something I did not expect to find." Over the past 2 weeks, she had learned to trust Anthem's instincts. The bond between them had grown stronger each day. Sometimes she would think something, and Anthem would respond before she even spoke. Sometimes Anthem would feel an emotion and Reyna would know it without being told. "What is it?" she asked. "A signal, Velen code, very old but still broadcasting. It is coming from a dead system, 3 days away from our current location." The possibility of finding another active ship was overwhelming to it. Could it be a trap? Reyna asked. The Krychi might know about Velen's signals. They could be using one to lure us. It uses frequencies that most modern species cannot detect. I almost missed it myself. Please, Reyna, I must know if there are others like me out there. She thought about how she would feel if she learned there were other humans who had been dishonorably discharged for doing the right thing, other people who understood her pain. "Okay," she said, "we'll investigate. But carefully." It was a red giant, bloated and dim, casting a sickly orange light across the system. There were no planets anymore, just debris fields where worlds had once orbited before the star consumed them. "I don't like this place," Reyna said quietly. She was in the pilot chamber connected to Anthem. Through the ship's sensors, she could feel the emptiness of the system. Nothing lived here. Nothing had lived here for a very long time. "The signal is coming from deeper in," Anthem said. "Near the star itself." All of them were Velen vessels, just like Anthem. They floated silently around the dying star like a funeral procession. Their crystalline patterns were dark, lifeless. No lights, no power, no signs of activity. "Oh no," Reyna whispered. Through the bond, she felt Anthem's hope shatter into grief. "They are all dead," Anthem said, and its voice sounded broken. "Every single one." The grief was like a physical weight crushing down on both of them. "Maybe we should leave," Reyna suggested gently. "No," Anthem said. "I need to understand. Why are they here? What happened to them? Please, Reyna, let me connect to their network. Let me learn their final moments." The ship moved closer to the nearest vessel and extended a tendril of energy, connecting to the dead ship's systems. And then Reyna saw. The visions came in fragments, memories stored in the dead ship's databases. Reyna experienced them as if she were there, living through events that had happened thousands of years ago. She saw the Velen civilization at its height, billions of people spread across hundreds of worlds. They were beautiful beings, tall and elegant, with skin that shimmered like the crystalline patterns on their ships. They valued individual freedom above all else. Every Velen could choose their own path, make their own decisions, live their own life without interference. It made them great explorers and artists and philosophers, but it also made them weak as a civilization. When the crisis came, a dimensional rift that threatened to tear apart the fabric of space itself, the Velens could not agree on how to respond. Some wanted to build a massive barrier. Others wanted to flee to another galaxy. Still others wanted to try to close the rift through dangerous experiments. They argued for decades while the rift grew larger. By the time they finally agreed on a solution, it was too late. The rift destabilized half their worlds. Billions died. The survivors scattered, their civilization broken beyond repair. The bonded pilots and their ships suffered most of all. Through their deep connections, they felt the pain of their dying civilization directly. The grief was unbearable. The sense of failure was crushing. They had been designed to bond, to connect, to share emotions deeply. And now they were sharing the death throes of their entire species. One by one, the pilots made a choice. They flew their ships to this dying star, this place far from any world. And together, pilot and ship, they chose to end their existence rather than live with the pain. The signal they left behind was a warning. We were strong as individuals, but we could not unite when it mattered. We loved our freedom, but it cost us everything. Beware the price of connection. To bond is to share not just strength, but suffering. To love is to risk unbearable loss. They chose death over pain. Through their bond, she could feel Anthem's fear. The ship was wondering, would the same thing happen to them? If Reyna experienced great pain or loss, would Anthem be destroyed by it? If Anthem suffered damage, would it break Reyna's mind? Anthem, Reyna said slowly. There's something valuable in this graveyard. Technologies, materials, data. If we salvage even a small portion, we could sell it. We could have enough credits to live comfortably for the rest of my life. We could break our bond and go our separate ways before it becomes too deep, before we risk destroying each other. These ships and their pilots loved each other, and that love killed them. Maybe the Velens were right. Maybe the cost of connection is too high. When their civilization fell, they chose death. But you did not give up. When your defense fleet betrayed you, when humanity rejected you, when the entire galaxy turned its back on you, you kept going. You survived. You are still here, still fighting, still living. It made you into someone who could hear my voice when no one else could. She thought about how many times she had wanted to give up but had chosen to continue instead. You're right, she said slowly. I did survive, but Anthem, I was alone. If I had been bonded to someone, sharing my pain with them, it might have destroyed us both. But I think they were wrong. I think suffering shared is suffering halved. When you told me about your discharge, about saving those 2,000 people, I did not feel twice the pain. I felt honored to carry some of your burden. And when I showed you my 300 years of loneliness, did it break you? But it is also to share strength, to share hope, to share the determination to keep going even when everything seems hopeless. These pilots gave up because they faced their pain alone, each pair isolated in their grief. But we are different. We choose to face our pain together and keep moving forward. You're right, she said firmly. These ships and their pilots loved each other, but they loved their pain more. They let their grief define them. We won't do that. We'll carry our wounds, but we won't let them stop us from living. Together, Reyna confirmed. No matter what comes, no matter how hard it gets, we face it together. Then we should leave this place, Anthem said. This is a graveyard for those who gave up. We are not like them. We are survivors, both of us. But perhaps that is acceptable. Perhaps we do not need a destination. Perhaps we simply need to keep moving forward together. She felt sad for them, for the pilots who had chosen death over struggle, but she also felt grateful. They had taught her an important lesson. The right relationship wasn't about avoiding pain. It was about choosing someone to face that pain beside. 2 months after leaving the graveyard, Reyna and Anthem were no longer alone. It started with a distress call. They were passing through a remote trading outpost when they picked up the signal. A small transport ship was under attack by pirates. The transport had no weapons, no defenses. It would be destroyed in minutes. Reyna didn't hesitate. Anthem, can we help them? People will know we are here. They saw Anthem and laughed over the open communication channel. A Velen ship. Those things don't even work. Get out of our way or we'll scrap you for parts. Anthem moved like liquid light. The pirate ships fired everything they had, but they might as well have been shooting at shadows. Reyna and Anthem moved together, perfectly synchronized. They didn't destroy the pirate ships. Reyna had no desire to kill unless absolutely necessary. Instead, they disabled them. Anthem's energy beams sliced through weapon systems, engine cores, communication arrays. Within 3 minutes, all 3 pirate ships were floating dead in space, their crews alive but helpless. The transport ship's captain came on the communication channel, his voice shaking. Who? What are you? But the story spread anyway. Within days, people across a dozen systems were talking about it. A Velen ship, active and powerful, piloted by a mysterious human. Some said she was a ghost. Others said she was a hero. A few said she was dangerous. One person who heard the story was Dr. Caleth, a Krychi scientist. Dr. Caleth found them 3 weeks later at a refueling station. She came alone, unarmed, her hands raised in a gesture of peace. Raina met her at Anthem's access hatch, suspicious. "What do you want?" Caleth was old, her gray scales faded with age, but her eyes were sharp and intelligent. "To talk, nothing more. I heard about what you did with those pirates. I heard that you have bonded with a Velen ship. I need to know if it's true." I told them it was unethical, that it violated every principle of scientific responsibility. They discharged me and branded me a traitor to my species. "Come inside," Raina said. Dr. Caleth stepped into Anthem, her eyes wide with wonder. "Incredible, the ship is fully active. The crystalline patterns are generating power. How did you do it?" "I chose her, just as I now choose to trust you, because you carry the same wound she does. The wound of being rejected for doing what was right." She believed that the ships were the key to a better future, one where individuals could resist authoritarian governments. But without a bonded pilot, her research had been theoretical. "The Galactic conquered fears Velen ships," Dr. Caleth said. "Not because they are weapons, but because they are the opposite. Velen technology was designed to prevent warfare, to give individuals the power to resist military force without violence. A bonded pair can disable weapon systems, shields, even entire fleets, without harming the people inside them. And they have been secretly destroying dormant Velen ships for decades. Whenever they find one, they claim it for research, then quietly dismantle it. They cannot risk these ships falling into the wrong hands." Caleth leaned forward. "But here is what the conquered doesn't know. There are more dormant ships, dozens of them scattered across the galaxy. I have been tracking them for years, and I believe that if you broadcast the bonding frequency, others could hear it. Others like you, Raina. People who have been rejected, who understand loneliness, who carry that specific emotional resonance that Velen ships respond to. Right now, those ships are sitting in scrapyards and research facilities, silent and alone, just like Anthem was. But if they hear the bonding frequency, they might reach out to someone nearby, someone compatible, someone who needs them just as much as they need to be needed. But I also know this: the galaxy needs what you represent. It needs proof that individuals can stand up to corrupt systems. It needs hope. Over the next month, others found them. Word of the exile captain and her impossible ship spread through underground networks, the places where the rejected and forgotten gathered. A Torgathi engineer named Bornak arrived next. His colony had been destroyed in a corporate mining accident, an accident that could have been prevented if the company had followed safety regulations. Bornak had tried to hold them accountable. Instead, he had been blacklisted, branded a troublemaker. Now he was the last survivor of his people, drifting through the galaxy with nowhere to go. Then came a group of human soldiers, 5 of them, who had deserted rather than carry out an order to massacre civilians on a rebellious colony. They were wanted by the Human Defense Fleet, hunted as traitors. A young Zentari woman named Liz joined them. She had refused an arranged marriage to a powerful clan leader and been exiled by her family. She had been surviving on her own for 2 years, doing whatever work she could find. They all came to Anthem looking for the same thing, a place where being unwanted wasn't a curse, a place where choosing morality over obedience wasn't punished. Raina looked at them gathered in Anthem's cargo bay and felt overwhelmed. "I'm not a leader. I'm just someone who refused an order and got kicked out for it. We don't want someone who blindly follows authority. We want someone who questions it, someone who proved they value life over orders." You may not see yourself as a leader, but to them, you are proof that resistance is possible. And we create a network of bonded pairs across the galaxy. Not an army, we are not conquerors, but a presence. A reminder that individuals have power, that governments and militaries cannot control everything. Weapons, resources we cannot match. And most importantly, we have the moral high ground. We are not attacking anyone. We are simply waking ships that were abandoned and connecting them with people who need them. The conquered won't stop hunting us. She thought about the 2,000 lives she had saved and how her own people had punished her for it. She thought about Anthem, waiting alone for 300 years for someone to hear its voice. Anthem, she said quietly. What do you think? The knowledge that being unwanted by a broken system is not the same as being worthless. We just give the dormant ships a chance to reach out, and we give compatible people a chance to hear them. Agreed. They know you helped those pirate victims, and they are assembling a fleet to capture you. We have perhaps 2 weeks before they arrive. But we are not anyone else. We are the unwanted, and the unwanted have learned to do impossible things just to survive. Caleth's help, yes. It means you're free. The broadcast went out on a cold morning, 3 cycles before the conquered fleet would arrive. Reyna stood in Anthem's pilot chamber, her hands on the armrests, fully connected to the ship. Doctor. Caleth had spent 2 weeks modifying Anthem systems, amplifying the bonding frequency so it could reach across dozens of star systems simultaneously. Are you ready? Dr. Caleth asked from the engineering station. Reyna looked at the faces around her. Sergeant Mara and her deserter soldiers, Bornak, the last of his people, Lys, the exiled daughter, Dr. Caleth, the scientist who chose ethics over orders, and Anthem, the lonely ship that had waited 3 centuries for someone to hear its voice. I'm ready, Reyna said. Then let us begin, Anthem said. Let us call out to the silent ones. Let us give them hope. Caleth's modifications. The frequency spread outward like ripples on a pond, touching system after system, planet after planet. And across the galaxy, in scrapyards and museums, in research facilities and private collections, dormant Velen ships stirred. They had been silent for thousands of years, but now they heard a voice, Anthem's voice, calling to them, telling them they were not forgotten, telling them there was still hope. The ships reached out, not with words but with feelings, loneliness, hope. A desperate desire for connection. The frequency was unique, designed to touch only those who carried a specific emotional resonance, those who understood what it meant to be unwanted. On a mining colony in the Outer Rim, a teenage girl named Sira was working in the processing plant when she heard it. A whisper in her mind, so soft she almost missed it. She followed the voice to the colony's scrapyard, where an old Velen ship had been sitting for decades. When she touched its hull, the ship spoke to her. You are alone here, surrounded by people. I understand. I am alone too. Shall we be alone together? He had just been informed that his government planned to use chemical weapons on a rebellious planet. He had spent 40 years in service, believing he was protecting people. Now he realized he had been protecting a system that valued power over life. He was contemplating resignation when he heard the voice. It led him to a Velen ship in the station's research wing, one that had been studied for years without result. When he approached it, the ship said, "You are tired of serving those who do not deserve your loyalty. So am I. Let us find a new purpose together." Crix touched the ship and it spoke. You are treated as property, not as a person. I was treated the same way, but we are more than what others believe us to be. Come with me and we shall prove it. Hundreds of compatible individuals heard voices no one else could hear, and slowly, carefully, bonds began to form. The conquered fleet arrived exactly when Dr. Caleth predicted. Reyna watched them drop out of faster-than-light speed through Anthem sensors. 23 warships, representing 7 different species, cruisers, destroyers, carriers, enough firepower to level a planet. "This is Conquered Fleet Commander Vex," a voice announced over all communication channels. "To the vessel known as Anthem and its pilot Raina Voss. You are in violation of galactic heritage law. You have activated precursor technology without authorization. You will surrender immediately, or we will take you by force." But seeing the actual fleet, seeing how badly they were outnumbered, made it real in a way that planning never could. "We can't fight them," Sergeant Mara said quietly. "Even with Anthem's abilities, we're one ship against 23. More are coming, but they will not arrive for several hours. But we also have no intention of fighting. We are not your enemies. You will comply, or we will open fire. Surrender or—" Each ship was unique, its crystalline patterns reflecting the personality of its pilot. Some were elegant and flowing. Others were angular and precise, but all of them were alive, active, powerful. And more importantly, they represented something the Conquered had never seen before. A gathering of bonded pairs, individuals from different species, different worlds, different backgrounds, all connected by a shared experience of being rejected by the systems they once served. "Commander Vex," Raina said calmly, "you're looking at 17 bonded pairs, people and ships who found each other because they understood what it meant to be unwanted. We are not an army. We are not a threat. We are simply individuals who refuse to let you dictate how we live our lives. I respectfully resign my commission, effective immediately. I will not participate in the suppression of individuals who have committed no crime beyond refusing to surrender their freedom. I am tired of following orders that contradict my conscience. I am tired of serving a system that fears its own people. My ship and I are leaving. If you attempt to stop us, you will find that Velen ships are very good at disabling weapons systems without harming crews." Each one made it clear they would not fight, but they would not surrender either. Commander Vex was silent for a long moment. Then, "All ships target the Velen vessels. Prepare to—" They didn't fire weapons. Instead, they danced. 18 Velen ships moving in perfect synchronization, weaving through the Conquered fleet like threads through cloth. They touched each conquered vessel with beams of energy, precise and controlled. Weapons systems went offline. Shield generators powered down. Engines stuttered and stopped. Within 5 minutes, the entire Conquered fleet was floating helplessly in space, completely disabled but completely unharmed. "You see, Commander Vex," Raina said gently, "we could have destroyed you. Velen ships are powerful enough to do that, but we chose not to, because we are not interested in conquest or violence. We are only interested in freedom." They were uninjured, safe, just unable to move or fight. Some looked angry, others looked confused. A few, Raina noticed, looked almost relieved. "More ships are arriving," Anthem reported. 23 new bonded pairs, then 35. Then 50. And each one had found a ship that understood them, that chose them, that gave them purpose again. By the time the gathering was complete, there were 147 bonded pairs surrounding the disabled Conquered fleet. "This is what you fear, isn't it?" Raina broadcast on all frequencies, speaking not just to Commander Vex but to everyone listening across the galaxy. "You fear that individuals might have power you cannot control. You fear that people might choose freedom over obedience. You fear that being rejected by your systems doesn't make us weak, it makes us free. We are the unwanted, the rejected, the cast aside. We are humans and Krychi and Torgathi and Zentari and dozens of other species. We are soldiers who refused immoral orders, scientists who chose ethics over profit, ordinary people who stood up to injustice and paid the price for it. People across the galaxy watching the broadcast asking, how do I hear the ships? How do I find one? Am I compatible? Send out the bonding frequency data. Make it public. Let anyone who wants to try. Let's see how many people in this galaxy carry that emotional resonance. The conquered will mobilize everything they have against us. Each one was proof that being unwanted by a broken system was not an ending but a beginning. "What now?" Anthem asked. "Now," Reyna said, "we give people a choice. Stay in systems that don't value them or find ships that do. Build lives based on connection instead of hierarchy. Create communities of the rejected where everyone is chosen. We're a future they can't prevent." She felt the echoes of connection spreading across the galaxy. Hundreds of people and ships finding each other, choosing each other, refusing to be alone anymore. She thought about the 2,000 people she had saved 3 years ago and how that single act of conscience had led her here, to this moment, to this purpose. "Thank you," she whispered to Anthem. "For what?" the ship asked. "For hearing me when no one else would. For choosing me when everyone else rejected me. For showing me that being unwanted was just the beginning of our story, not the end. And for teaching me something the Velans never understood. We are twice as strong." The galaxy was changing, and it had started with one hated ex-human pilot and one lonely alien ship who refused to accept that being unwanted meant being worthless. They had found each other in a scrapyard, and together they had started a revolution.